This was sacrilegious. I mean, there were people who gave Barack Obama hell for a tan suit and a selfie stick. And you have somebody out here who's mocking Jesus Christ, and the Republican Party, GOP, they think they're God's only party anyway. They simply can't say our president messed up.
Another day, another unbelievable controversy surrounding Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. This time, with Trump posting an AI-generated image of Jesus and then denying responsibility. And right on cue, MAGA supporters twist themselves into all kinds of mental gymnastics and logic pretzels to justify it. We're going to break down clips from a heated panel discussion on Abby Phillips' CNN show, where Bari Weiss and Lee McGowan push back hard against what they call far-right misinformation coming from Noah Rothman and Howell Lambert. I'll also be sharing my own take on all of this. Let's dive into it together.
Tonight, an uncharacteristic move by President Trump. After significant blowback from both the left and the right, he's now deleted this AI-generated post depicting himself as Jesus. But according to him, that isn't the likeness of Jesus, and he's surprised that anyone would think otherwise.
It wasn't depiction. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better.
But tonight, Vice President J.D. Vance had a different explanation. He said Trump is just trying to be funny.
Right. I think the president was posting a joke, and of course he took it down because he recognized that a lot of people weren't understanding his humor in that case. I think the president of the United States likes to mix it up on social media, and I actually think that's one of the good things about this president is that he's not filtered.
Father Edward Beck is here with us at the table. Father Beck, is this a funny joke? It seems like most people didn't take it that way.
Well, I think rightly so. What doctor have you ever seen with light rays coming out of his hands to heal someone and rays from heaven coming down blessing him in red and white garments? I mean, the president, I think, is being disingenuous, quite frankly, by saying he thinks it was a doctor's image he was posting. There's no Red Cross image in the photograph. There's an image of a nurse in a blue uniform, but nothing about the Red Cross. So I just think all of his comments did not follow what everybody else saw. And for J.D. Vance to say it was simply him being humorous, I think, well, which was it? If he was trying to be humorous, most people didn't get it. So basically, we're blaming people for not getting his humor and the liberal media for not getting it. I just think you always put the blame somewhere else, but why not just say, look, I made a mistake. I posted the wrong thing. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. I just think that would be more reasonable.
Because he deleted it, but then lied about it?
That's not who he is. I mean, I think we have to get to the point where we're like, when are the lies enough lies? When do the people of America who support this man say, this is enough lies? Like, quite clearly, everyone who's ever dressed up for Halloween knows if you're a doctor, you put on a white coat and a stethoscope. Like, that's the doctor costume, not the Jesus costume, which is what Donald Trump put himself out being. And it's putting himself in the place of God, not with God, in the place of God. I think the bigger issue here is that Trump's behavior from the whole week is that he's not mentally fit to be in this position right now. He threatened 90 million people with instantaneous death. He's terrorizing the world. He's ruining the economy. He's basically said we're going to get rid of a 6,000-year-old civilization. And then he went to an ultimate fighting championship game to wave at people, right? Like, we can't pretend that this is okay, that America is the good guy in this situation. It's no longer even pretending that we represent freedom and justice or democracy in the world when we have this one man with unquestioned, unchecked power acting however he wants, and then we try and make excuses for it after the fact. It's too much, and we have to stop.
So, Lee is not the only person describing Trump's behavior recently as erratic. And the Times put it all together in a piece that says Trump's erratic behavior and extreme comments revive mental health debate as the former president threatens to wipe out Iran, attacks the Pope. Even some former allies and advisors are questioning whether he's grown increasingly unbalanced, describing him as lunatic and clearly insane. And look, let's pretend that it's not Trump. If someone that you loved who is in a position of power, like a CEO or something, posted something like that, people would be calling and asking, are you okay?
Well, I think what the reason Trump said that is because the person that originally posted it was, I think, February 6th. And he actually said he posted it because Trump is the doctor for the country. And that's why he posted it out there. Now, the image is obviously a problem, which is why President Trump pulled it down. But I believe President Trump probably didn't think of it as being Jesus at the time. He saw it as, oh, I'm healing the country, which is what
You believe that?
No, I believe that.
Depicting
I definitely believe.
Hal, you believe that he was depicting himself as a doctor?
Well, that's what the original post was about. And so Trump retweeted
No,
it.
I believe, because I don't think Donald Trump knows who Jesus is. So I honestly believe that he was confused. I mean, the fact that people can't call a spade, like, this was sacrilegious. I mean, there were people who gave Barack Obama hell for a tan suit and a selfie stick. And you have somebody out here who's mocking Jesus Christ, and the Republican Party, GOP, they think they're God's only party anyway. They simply can't say our president messed up. And then when Riley Gaines, who I don't agree with on much of nothing, Jason Whitlock, who I don't agree with on absolutely anything, when they had the audacity to come out and chastise the president of the United States, he chastises them back.
Yeah, but he pulled it down. When you say he won't admit it, he did pull it back down.
But who is in charge of the man who's in charge of the free world? If he can put out things and then be like, whoops, we can't have someone in charge who can do that. He needs to at least have a team around him that can stop him from putting up the wrong
He's the
thing.
president of the United States. He can put whatever he wants up. You're not in charge. You can't tell him what to do.
That's the attitude in the White House.
But he can't.
No, go
That's
ahead.
the problem.
No, go ahead.
That's a major part of the problem. No one can actually tell this clown, Donald Trump, what to do. Lee McGowan and Bari Weiss are absolutely right here. Donald Trump is not fit to hold this office. And here's the bigger issue. Everyone's acting like, oh, he's just getting older, and, the quote that Abby Phillip put up about him being unstable or whatever else was said. But we already knew all of this back in 2016. We had 4 full years of watching Donald Trump in office, seeing firsthand that he was not fit to be president, and then all the unhinged things he said after that. Lying about the election being stolen, making bizarre claims about people eating cats and dogs, and everything else that came along with it. And that should have been more than enough for the Republican Party to come together, for all of these media voices to step up and say, no, we don't want this guy. He's reckless. He's incompetent. He did real damage while in office. We cannot go down this road again. But they refuse to do that. So instead, you get people like Hal Lambert, and I'm sure we'll hear from Noah Rothman too, trying to spin it. Well, what he really meant was this. He thought it was a doctor because someone told him it was a doctor. If someone is too clueless to look at that image and recognize that it was depicting him as Jesus, not as a doctor, then that alone raises serious concerns about their judgment. And honestly, we've seen enough to question whether Donald Trump has the awareness and stability required to be president of the United States. I will say this, I do agree with the line from Bari Weiss that maybe he doesn't even know who Jesus is. That actually tracks because the image he projects doesn't match someone grounded in those beliefs. It's widely known that Donald Trump doesn't engage with Scripture, doesn't prioritize religion in any meaningful way, and has leaned into that identity largely for political support, especially from evangelical voters he's managed to win over. But again, if Bari Weiss is right, and he genuinely didn't recognize that image, then that alone should disqualify him from holding office. And as one priest pointed out, he could have simply said, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have posted that. I'm sorry if anyone was offended, and moved on. But instead, everything turns into denial. Everything becomes a spin. Every situation gets twisted into some explanation about what he really meant, followed by the usual line that critics just don't understand the joke. But here's the reality. We don't need a president cracking jokes like this. There's a time and place for humor, like at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which, notably, Donald Trump avoids, where leaders have actual writers crafting those moments. The rest of the time, this job is serious. You're responsible for the lives of hundreds of millions of people. Your decisions impact the economy, the markets, global stability, everything. And those words and actions carry real consequences. As Lee McGowan pointed out, you're not just affecting people here at home. You're influencing millions across the world. Decisions, threats, and policies can escalate tensions, even lead to conflict. That's the weight of this office. So no, the left isn't being overly sensitive, and it's not about missing the joke. And as for J.D. Vance, this talking point that the left just doesn't get humor misses the point entirely. We don't want a president making jokes like this. And if a joke needs to be explained over and over again, was it ever a good joke to begin with? No.
Pushback, though, that he did it. It stayed up for 13 hours.
Well, I'm
There's
just
only when he
saying,
got
she keeps
negative
saying, who's
pushback.
going to stop him from doing this?
Well,
Congress,
I think
the
Congress is gonna
military,
stop him?
people
No,
are
no, no, no,
supposed
I
to
think.
stop
Oh,
him.
go ahead.
He's
I'm sorry.
not
You've been
supposed
trying to
to
jump in. It's like double
unilaterally
dutch around
making
here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just
Poor
confused
guy.
as to what the
Yeah.
New York Times is identifying as being odd behavior here. I mean, this is precisely how he's behaved for the last 8 years, 10 years. If you ask Republican voters.
Yeah, and that's exactly the problem. People like Noah Rothman, you sycophants, you propagandists, should have been calling this out 8 years ago. This isn't new. None of this just started happening. And it's not just him, it's the broader party that had multiple chances to step in, to draw a line, and to put forward someone stable, someone competent, someone grounded. Instead, they chose to stay silent, to defend, to deflect, and to fall in line. At some point, accountability has to matter. At some point, there has to be a willingness to say, this isn't acceptable, and actually back that up with action. But instead, what we keep seeing is the same pattern: excuses, spin, and a refusal to confront what's right in front of everyone.
Back in the first term, the first thing they tell you they don't like about Donald Trump is the tweets, back when it was Twitter.
Right.
The tweets. You can't count on 15 hands how many times his social media has gotten him in trouble, and yet he can persist in part because this is something
But
that
don't you think? But don't you think on
No,
the?
it's not okay.
But
It is
hold
just
on,
a
but-
feature
but
of how
don't
he
you
is,
think,
and I
Noah,
wish they had a more disciplined com shops.
I think
The
you're
president may not be
right.
disciplined.
Like, look, there's a polling this earlier this year. 61% say that Trump doesn't share their values. 64% say he does not have the right temperament to be president. So you're right. Americans see him for who he is. But I think the issue,
Republicans don't like that, too.
the issue right now is on the importance of the things that he's sending these messages about. It's not just calling his political opponents names. He's threatening to wipe out a civilization in the middle of a war. And then he's getting into a tit for tat, which we'll talk more about in a little bit, with the Pope, and then sending out an image that even his own supporters are saying, don't do that. I mean, Riley Gaines's comment was, a little humility would serve him well. God shall not be mocked. But it's the why. It's the stuff that he's doing it on that makes a difference.
I do think there's
Let
a
me just
little.
let
Oh,
Noah
sorry. Go ahead.
respond, please.
Well, I actually don't have much to say. I think everybody's right. I think Riley Gaines is right that we wish the president would exercise a little bit more discretion. He cannot do that. He refuses to do that. And then folks like J.D. Vance come around and say, well, this is what's best about him. It does fuel his ego in ways that
But I
are
also think that
counterproductive.
we're not clearly acknowledging the fact that it's getting worse. And I had a great aunt, Jenny Marie. She was the matriarch of our family. And she was 88 years old and still driving. And then she used to come to church and park in the front. And then the day she hit the pastor's car, my dad had to go take away the keys, right? Because it just progressively got worse.
Is this going to be an Article 25 discussion again? You guys
No,
have
I'm
been
not-
talking about Article 25.
No.
never
But
happened.
what
No,
I'm
that's not
also, so I have two concerns. One is that the president, I believe, lacks discernment, and I think that's getting worse. The second thing is you won't call a spade a spade. And the fact that if you can't call what he did sacrilegious, which is clearly the definition of sacrilegious, I think that would be my second problem.
Well, obviously, I wouldn't have posted it out there, and I think President Trump realized he shouldn't have and pulled it down.
But can you be critical of him?
I also,
Sure, I don't think he should have posted it.
Also
But why not
how-
apologize? Why not admit I did something?
That's a very good
I think
question.
part of it is in politics, when you start apologizing, you run into problems. And I think
What?
that's the issue.
That
It
is not
certainly
okay.
is.
Just to be clear,
But in Christianity,
that is-
when you start
hold on,
apologizing,
hold on a
you
second.
actually help
Just
put
to
a
be
path to
clear,
forgiveness.
it is not true that in politics, when you apologize, things start to go wrong. That the only person who believes that is Donald Trump, and he is wrong about that. In politics, it is okay to acknowledge mistakes. That's actually what most politicians do. The fact that Trump doesn't do it is not it's not a virtue, Val. I mean, it's not a virtue. And why, by the way, is it that Trump needs to post something first, see the backlash to realize that it was wrong?
Well, as was said, he's been posting now for 12 years.
Yeah, but does he have the judgment to know that it's wrong before he posts it?
I think he does. I mean, this was done at, 3 in the morning, I think? So
What was going on at 3 a.m. at the
He
White
just
House?
thinks it's cool. Like he posts this thing where he's dressed up as Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now, going to war with Chicago. He thinks it's cool. He doesn't. actually follow it.
But also at 4
His
a.m.
fans shouldn't
But
kill
also
him.
at 4 a.m. on Easter Sunday, he was also posting about committing a genocide. Like you can't decouple them. And all I'm saying is when you look at them together, and when you look at them not in exclusivity but together, you have a president of the United States who is getting older by the day.
I really
All right,
think we should make a distinction between being provocative and blasphemous with making threats against an adversary in war that you've interpreted to mean breaking the nuclear taboo.
I will take the fact that you called it blasphemous,
All
so
right.
I'll take a win.
You just said a lot of things there now.
So I think Noah Rothman and Hal Lambert, the two MAGA voices here, they're actually making the argument for the left. They're reinforcing exactly what Bari Weiss and Lee McGowan are saying. And that argument is simple. Donald Trump is unfit for office. They're literally admitting it. They're saying he lacks the judgment to know he shouldn't post something like this. And then Hal Lambert follows it up with, well, yeah, he took it down, but he shouldn't have put it up in the first place. Exactly. That's the point. Because he's reckless. Because he doesn't think. Donald Trump operates with the mindset of a 12-year-old. And we should not have someone with that level of maturity running the country. If Donald Trump wants to go back to being a TV personality or focus on real estate, fine, he can post whatever wild or bizarre things he wants. But the President of the United States is held to a completely different standard. Abby Phillips summed it up perfectly when she pointed out to Hal Lambert and Noah Rothman that he should know better. But the problem is Donald Trump doesn't know better. That's the issue. That's the pattern. And that same mindset extends to people around him as well. Figures like Pete Hegseth. The level of judgment on display reflects that same kind of immaturity. It's not leadership, it's impulsiveness. This isn't normal. Imagine a CEO posting something like that. Imagine a school principal doing it. What would happen? There would be immediate consequences, likely termination. But when it comes to Donald Trump, there's always an excuse, always a defense that you'll have supporters twisting themselves into those same logic pretzels again, saying that's not what he meant or it was just a joke. And we're expected to accept that again and again. And as was shown on screen during Abby Phillips' segment, more than 60% of people feel Donald Trump doesn't share their values. Even voices like Riley Gaines now saying he needs humility. But where was that concern years ago? This isn't new behavior. It's been consistent for nearly a decade. There's a podcast I've listened to, the Professional Left podcast, and they use the phrase burn the lifeboats. And it fits because when this is all over, a lot of these same figures are going to try to distance themselves. They'll try to rebrand, to step back into mainstream spaces like CNN and shows like Abby Phillips. And honestly, there should be accountability for that. If someone spent years defending, excusing, and promoting misinformation, that shouldn't just be forgotten overnight. Watch what happens when Donald Trump is no longer in the spotlight. People like Hal Lambert, Noah Rothman, even Scott Jennings, suddenly it'll be, Donald Trump? I barely supported him. That shift always comes. So now I want to hear from you. Where do you stand on this? Do you agree more with Bari Weiss, Lee McGowan, and even the priest who spoke on Abby Phillips' show? And what do you think would happen if, just once, Donald Trump said, I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Because as Lee McGowan pointed out, he doesn't do that. He doesn't take responsibility. It's always someone else's fault. Or do you agree with Hal Lambert and Noah Rothman and their defense of Donald Trump? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you made it this far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more.